This next video has been created for those students that have worked with Creo and are now ready to make the change and bring their file into Illustrator. So the first thing is, let's go into Creo. And I'm going to open a file. So this file has come from a student, and just as a bit of an example, I'm going to use that to show you the steps that we need to do to get into Illustrator. And there are actually quite a few of them, and it doesn't seem quite logical in the way that it does work. But as you see, it's quite a simple process. So first thing is to open your files that you've got. So ideally there is an assembly file. I'm going to find one that I was working with just recently, which I think is this one here, which is an iPad stand. And if I rotate it, you can see it's got a bit of a platform here. Ideally you would have an assembly file, and you can do that in a number of ways. You can do your assembly and then add your assembly part, and that will have been shown to you in class in another video. For this particular part, we're going to create a new file. So one of the common mistakes is to go save as, and you would typically go save a copy and look for a drawing file, which is a DWG file here. Now if you do that and you try and open that in Illustrator, that is not going to work. So what we have to do is file new, drawing, and you will of course give it a name, so we'll just call it iPad for now. Go OK. It's going to ask us a number of formats. Now we've only got the basic format. The school does have a template file. That'll be set up later on in the video, may be modified in the future. For now, just go A3. We'll keep it fairly simple. So it's now telling me the drawing couldn't be created, but obviously it has because it is on the screen here. And the area that we're interested in is this particular one here, which is our drawing file that we've got. That's step number one. The second step is to actually do that again. So we go save as, but this time we go export. And you notice we get a few extra options that come up the front here. So we're going to go DWG file, and we want to export that now. And you'd think it's the same, but believe it or not, it's actually different. We go OK. And then we have our file, it's ready to go. What we then do is we find our template file that we've got with the dimensions, which is our Illustrator file. So we'll open that up. And what we want to do is we want to place that image on there. Obviously I've already got some work on here. I'll just delete that from earlier because it's got a correct size of 600 by 300. We go File, Place, and we have to go and locate our file. Always a good trick to remember where you have actually saved the file. So I'll look at date modified. I'll find it very quickly. As you would know, it doesn't seem to be any of those. Let me just jump back into Creo and see where I did actually save it. Export. So I went into public documents. So just be careful. Make sure you save it in the right spot, or you'll end up doing my mistake. So iPads. Let's try that again. So it should appear here in the list. There we go, 22nd, that's today's date. And we're going to grab that file. Let's see if it works. Now we get a couple of options that pop up. We don't really want to do too many changes with it. That's a text file, that is not correct. Let me just double check what I did there. So DWG file, export. Is there, I must have brought the wrong file. Let me just double check that. File, place, there it is, iPad.dwg. Okay, here we go. Some attributes will not be preserved with this version of AutoCAD. Try saving with the previous version to retain the object attributes. Now what that's talking about, sometimes you'll actually be working with this program, and there are some additional options that you can get. If you go into options here, data exchanger, to make sure it's set to 2007. Sometimes it will be set to 2013. Just double check that and see if that's your issue. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Click OK. Make sure it's always the original size, otherwise it'll be skewed and out of whack. And we go OK. Now, this one is saying we've got objects or fonts. We should be able to go OK here, and we'll add them in, and that should be fine. Now, as you can see, that's now brought that in. Now it's actually brought in a lot of excess things that we don't need. We can just very quickly delete them out of the screen. And we have our basic board. Now what we could have done, and what you'll notice here, is we've got all of these extra words in here that we don't even need. And if we actually go back to our Creo design, the very first one, you'll notice that these are actually on here. And you can go through and remove as many of these options as you actually want to in the design itself. So you can go back through, and of course when you are working with your drawing file, you do have, I'll just close that away because we don't need that. You do have the option of removing a number of viewable fields that we have on the screen. So you might find that you might have to remove a few things that are on the screen, and you can go through and do that here. But you just got to decide which way is the easiest. So you can obviously delete these things out. You've got a few things in there. It should remove very quickly. Just zoom out slightly. And I just want to compare the two designs that we've got of this object. As you can see, they're very flat. I'm just trying to determine if the surface that we're working with is the same. It does look pretty spot on. I don't see any major issues there. Just take away all of those views. Let's try it. We might just try that again. So Control D to realign it. Let's just make a new drawing file. I'll call this number 2. Yeah, that's fine. Now you'll actually notice now we don't have all those extra words around it. So that's becoming a little bit better. So now if we go File, Export, and of course you could choose a blank template to do that. So File, Save As, Export, DWG file, Export again, and we'll make sure we're saving it to the right location. We'll overwrite the existing file we've got. Now what I'll do is I'll zoom out, I'll delete that. Let's go File, Place. That looks like the right time. That file there. Place, OK. Don't change any of those options. Merge swatches. Just give me a couple of prompts there. Now if we zoom in, and we'll remove this excess from the template, which we don't need. And what would actually happen is that would actually print on the laser cutter. We don't want to do that. And of course then we're left with our basic design. Remember to go through, change the colors to red to cut all the way through with no infill, and of course change the size down to 0.001. The laser is very accurate. And bring your objects in, you're ready to go.